Sa pagtatapos ng ating serye sa kwento ng buhay ni Beldon Com, he will share with us how did he meet his current partner, Aimee Calabio, at kung bakit pinili niya ay Filipina ulit. Alamin kung ano ang kanyang nakikita sa mga Pilipina.
When I met Aimee, we actually met online, but she was living here in the States already, as you know. When we met, I saw a picture of her online with her son by a picnic table outside, and it was that scene. There's a lot of pictures when you go on the internet, and those pictures are always these pictures with, you know, the low t-shirt and the cleavage and the things that, you know, are supposed to spark you as a man. Aimee didn't have that picture. She had a picture of her in park clothes with her son by a picnic table, and it really struck me the relationship she had with her son. And that's important to me. I love my kids and my family, and it's important to me that that family dynamic be there. So when I saw that picture, it got me interested. It made me give her a call or an email and start working through our relationship.
What's the drawback going into a somewhat similar, really, not really, but you know what I mean, like you go to another Filipina?
If it's a Filipina, if it's a white girl, if it's somebody from any other race in any other part of the world, I had already learned the hard way that you really don't know. You just don't know until you take that chance. When I reached out to Aimee, it was with that in mind. One thing that attracted me to her that's different than anybody I've ever dealt with is that she was just stubborn and bullheaded. I reached out to her and she talked to me a little bit. And when it felt serious, she told me I have a toothache, I can't talk. It became obvious through the first 6 months' time that she wasn't telling me to leave her alone. She wasn't saying go away. But she always had a reason that she couldn't talk today. And then every once in a while, she'd open up. I'd learn a little piece about her, and we'd talk for a week or two. And then another excuse and another reason to shut it down. So she really felt to me like she was exactly what she said she was. Somebody who's been there, done that, been through a bad relationship and had to work through it on their own and was a little careful, let's say, about getting into another one. So the fact that she made me be persistent, I really kind of liked that.
Aimee came up to Seattle, and that took some daring. She tried to make up a lot of excuses not to come up and meet him. She said she can't pay for it, but since Beldon invited her, he told her he'll pay for it, and she said she can't pay for her son, and he said he'll pay for her son too. And eventually, she ran out of excuses, and one of her friends prodded her and told her just go. Finally, they met at the airport. He had a steaming hot Starbucks coffee that she requested on the way up. She's a little shorter than he thought she'd be, but he said that's okay, he liked that, and she's very warm and personable. When asked what was the first thing he told her, he said, "Welcome to Seattle." But then he remembered what he actually said was, "Here's the coffee that you ordered." It turned out to be a good visit and a lot of fun. They got to know each other, and he got to know her son as well. I know you mentioned earlier that in order for someone to really recover is to let you feel the pain. But in your situation, what really makes you break the wall to open up your heart to someone again? According to Beldon, it was that realization that all of the wonderful feeling, all of the magic comes from what you give and not from what you get. And he found it empowering because whether he's happy in love or not doesn't depend upon another person. It depends upon him, not his willingness to go out and say, "Hey, what can you give me? How you gonna love me? Prove me you love me." It's not about that. It's about what he give and proving that he loves her. When asked what advice he can give to the people, he said, "The first thing is to understand that the horror stories do happen. You don't want to judge an entire culture based on what somebody's experienced. There are tremendously nice people in the world," he said. "And if you have a bad experience, don't let that color your outlook in life. Believe that the good parts of that experience were really good. The bad parts, let them work through and let them go. But when you move on, just open yourself freely to the next person you choose to spend time with. Because if you don't, you're gonna wall off." Beldon says if there's anything that he learned with Aimee is to open up yourself It gives you that chance for an experience that is life-altering and make you better, make you whole. And if you brought it up, you're never gonna get that. You're never gonna be with that person. And even if you are, you're gonna miss it. So the advice that he would give is that horror stories do happen, but so do with a lot of amazing people. So keep yourself open. In the work that he does, counseling people with weight loss, one of the reasons that people gain weight, he said, is a bad relationship and a bad emotional experience that causes them to turn into food, and they hang on to the crotch and they channel the pain into the crotch. And he can't say enough that you have to let that pain do what it came to do. Pain comes to hurt you, he said. You have to let it do. And it's not going to leave until it does. Just let it do what it came to do. Let it go, and then you can drop your crotch, and then you can move on, and you can be a whole person. And honestly, he said, if someone is interested in you, you have to be that whole person. Otherwise, you're not good for them. Feel it. Let it move through you and be on its way. When people fight down, he said, and pretend it doesn't exist, it lasts forever.
Any tips would help to our audience who might or know someone? What do you suggest for them to do?
Belden says nobody makes anything happen by wishing and hoping. You go do it. Put yourself out there. Let people see who you are. But when you put yourself out there, let the people see who you are, and then you draw the right people by coming to who you are instead of the show that you give them. There's an old saying, he said, in this country that, fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, shame on you. So if you had bad experience, learn from it, know the questions to ask, and know the signs that you look for when you talk to the next person. But still put yourself out there. Put yourself out carefully, but put yourself and let yourself meet people.
What are the challenges of having like a cultural differences kind of relationship?
Oh, dried fish. The smell of dried fish wafting through your house is the biggest challenge there is if you're going to be with a Filipina, because it's horrible. It's just horrible. No, seriously, the challenges of the cultural interplay, the Filipino people look at life differently than we do. Americans tend to be very complicated. We like to call it sophisticated, but what sophisticated means is very complicated.
Yeah.
Whereas Filipino culture is a lot simpler. There's no reason to be sophisticated in a country that doesn't have a lot. It's a lot simpler, and I'm drawn to that. I'm drawn to the clarity that the Filipino people can look at the world with, because there isn't the layers of masks and faces that we have to put on, but we put them on. So it's an adjustment to work through with each other and to come to understand each other, so that when Amy says something that to me is like, are you kidding me? I open my mind to the culture in the background and say, you know what, that makes a really lot of sense. And there's times when Amy with me will just wait until we're in private, and she'll bop me upside the head figuratively. And she'll say, you don't have to be like that when we're with Filipino people, which of course many of our friends are now. So we're able to help each other to grow and expand, and in some cases shrink, to be the best people we can be. So cultural interplay is a good thing if you're open to it and if you're willing to adjust to it.
Did you have also some challenges on the language barrier?
Less than you might think. Now, bearing in mind that I'd been with the Filipina for many years previously, I'd already begun to make some of the translations to where the English words don't come out quite right, but I know what they mean. And so we'd been down some of that road, and of course Amy had lived in America for several years at that point too. So the language barrier wasn't as big of a problem as it certainly is for some people. And I let her know straight away. I know enough of her language to know when she's talking about me. Mm-hmm. So at least she's careful what she says about me when she's talking to her Filipino friend.
Did the age matter? Because there are people who would make a big deal about it.
No, I've been married to people that are my age, and does that make a difference? Well, no, it didn't really work out. Age is not a factor, maturity is. You need a person who's mature enough to be in the same ballpark with each other. And that's really a bigger issue than the numbers on a calendar. There have been a lot of people who at the end of the day say the best sex is a great conversation. And there's so many ways to think about romance and what it really is. Sex is an important piece of it, but it's certainly not the only piece of it. There's a lot more connection that has to be made, even if you want sex to be the best it can be. So when you connect on somebody at every level, and I mean I connect on many, many levels, then the romance is amazing. We went, I believe a week ago, down to LA. Didn't spend much money, didn't go fancy places. We just bopped around to fun stuff and went to the Filipino nighttime dollar market. And it was fabulous. And we came back, feeling more in love than we did before we did it, without having to put a lot of show into it, right? That's romance. That's what makes the romance work. I've never been in a relationship like Aimee. Aimee is the first person I've been with who's absolutely not afraid to get all up in my face and say, you really screwed that up. And that's important to me. It's important to have that kind of openness and feedback in a relationship where somebody can feel free themselves to tell you how it is with you and how to make you better and what you can do as a team to get better. She's not afraid to do that, but she's also not afraid on the flip side to come up and say, that was awesome. Give me a big hug, a pat on the back, and a head that wouldn't fit in this room. She'll do that too. And she'll spoil me in so many ways. So, that's really the thing that I appreciate about her. And I know that's not true with all guys. Some guys don't want a girl that's not afraid to get all up in their face, but I value that. Aimee is the person that makes me feel I can do anything. Aimee is a person who... Don't go ooh and make me cry. But she is. Aimee is a person that's there, believes in me, trusts in me, and just fills me up with what I know I can do. The possibilities are endless. Thanks. Thanks for getting over the toothache you never had. Thanks for finding the key to your phone. Thanks for getting over the goat trail and going all the way up to my house. And just thanks for opening up and giving me the chance.
Maraming salamat po sa inyong pagsubaybay sa ating serye sa buhay ni Aimee Calabio at Beldon Com. Naway ito'y kapupulutan ng leksyon sa ating mga taga-subaybay. Patuloy po niyong suportahan ang ating munting palabas, ang Ugnayan. Para sa mga karagdagang kwento, mag-check out sa la18.tv. Ito po si Effie Barker, ang inyong kaugnayan.